I just finished a tattoo ritual and I wanted to tell you a little bit about tattoo magic if you're interested in practicing it and or want to start to get into it. You can see my little finger tattoos that I did just now. There's still obviously like some extra ink that I didn't get off of this one, but that's what they look like. These are the ones I just did. Super fancy, okay? So one of the things to note is that when you are altering tattoos, you're altering your blood and your lineage and your ancestors. So one of the things I'll note is that it's very helpful to have an ancestral practice, especially if you're working within those rites of the spirit. If you don't have one, obviously you can still practice tattoo magic, but on a personal level, I find it beneficial. The other thing about altering your blood, you are altering the lineage. Okay, so how you do the tattoo for you is also how it's going to move the other people in your line if they are still alive and kicking it, right? Now, these ones are super simple. These are also sigils from my first book of tattoo. Well, it's not tattoo sigils, but it's my first book of sigils. It's a partial introduction. Simple is really complicated. So I'm going to go over some of those fundamentals, but I do have a mini ebook on my website if you're interested in having a little bit more information. For me, I'm also going to say this, okay? For me, it's really helpful because I have spirits on my team who are of iron, time, structure, gravity, and order. So, like me figuring out how that these tiny little tattoos, okay, is literally years in the making of understanding how to work with order and structure. And for me, on a personal level, I have spirits on my team, like I just said. So, nurturing those relationships will also help you understand, because I'm going to give you like general information, but those spirits will help you understand on a really personal level the things that are going to work for you. One of the first things you want to think about is the kind of technology that you're using for the tattoo itself. I did a little stick and poke, okay, but you could use a tattoo gun. Understanding the magic of each kinds of these machines, we wouldn't maybe technically think about a tattoo, just a stick and poke needle as technology, but it is. So if you're learning about the difference between those kinds of technology, if you practice with a stick and poke, things are going to be done by kind of your will and not a lot of extra revolve of like energy or electricity or that sort of stuff involved with the magic further down the line. Whereas if you're using a tattoo machine, those sorts of things are going to be involved further down the line. Most of my practice, I do have online work, obviously, hello, but most of my practice with the spirits is not that. And I felt kind of inclined to sit with the more simple form of that because that sort of magic is also included with this technology. Surprise, okay? But when you add electricity and you add all the extra gizmos and whizzes, okay, it's kind of hard to go back to the simplicity of just having like the stick and poke needle or just pen to paper as an example of how that might translate to other forms of technology in the future with the work. So that's the first thing. Second thing is you obviously want ink. You can pray over it. I, for now, have mine without any sort of like incantation on it because I do a lot of different smaller rituals. So you do want to think about that. These were also anointed in a specific order once I was finished. So keeping that in mind, I put oil on at the end. I know Vaseline is like more of a traditional, like if you're in a tattoo shop, but since I'm at home and I can do whatever I want, I do anoint them, especially because I'm a practitioner. Okay, shut up. All right. Now, when you get into the actual like tattooing of the sigils, the sigils, interesting. The sigils, or what it is that you're creating, how you draw on the symbols is how they're going to be created through you. So if you go, these are really simple, right? So like clockwise or counterclockwise, or do I draw the line from the center of the circle outwards or outwards into the center of the circle? Depending on how you would, again, simple is really complicated. That there's a reason that's the name for the first sigil book that I put out. Crazy. Anyways, there's a lot to think about. And those of you who work with spirits of time, order, structure, iron, the Smith work, like you know that simple can get really complicated. There's like an art, there's artisan artistry to that sort of stuff. There are tattoos I've done that are more chaos oriented. So listen, I'm not gonna knock on that. You know what I mean? I like that stuff. And also, if you're trying to get really specific, it is helpful and useful to have a spirit like that or multiple spirits like that on your team. Okay. You also want to think about what side of the body is it on? Left hand, right hand, ka-chow. What does that symbolically mean for you? Because that's also going to be folded into the order of those very specific details. Again, stuff like the clockwise, counterclockwise, is it going into the circle or out of the circle first? One of the other things as a tattoo, I'm not technically a tattoo artist for other people, but tattoo artist, and I'm an artist painting as example. Okay. One and a medium and a priestess and a witch and all the different spiritual things I do. One of the things to note that I've found is that a lot of the times while I'm tattooing myself, I receive pretty intense, crazy messages. Normally, they don't make a lot of sense, but they are signifiers of things that I will pass through time. So while you're tattooing yourself or getting a tattoo from someone else, if you're listening to that, if you have psychic abilities and you're tapping into it, you will more than likely see landmarks, feelings, different visions, however your gifts work for you. There's more than likely going to be some things that pop up for future you to pass through. So if you make a note of those, there wasn't like a heavy lot of them while I was doing these, but there was also quite a few, which I'm going to keep for myself. I'm going to keep it a secret. It is blood work, right? Okay, so I'm going to keep some things to myself. But I do find that kind of paying attention to those intuitive inklings, once you bind, that's pretty much forever and ever. So you will pass through those times. It is like an absolute thing, which is wild, but it is. So noting those visions are kind of like the time markers that you have, that will let you know when that tattoo becomes active in your world. Because depending on your magic and how it works, it could become active more than once. A lot of the times, my tattoos, when I do them, they reach me to a destination, and then I have either that skill or prayer or what it is that I put the tattoos on in the first place for. I have that at the destination, and I'm earning the right of that throughout from when I start my ritual of tattoo to the destination. Sometimes, especially with ironwork, blood work sort of stuff, it does take time. So it can be years before that stuff becomes fully, totally grounded. It also depends on kind of like how the rest of your magic is turning. So I guess just like note to that and everything else you have going on in your world. Is it like possible that the lesson can ground earlier? Is there other stuff you need to process first? So relate that as necessary too. The other thing about order and structure and time, and sometimes ironwork, but definitely order, structure, and time. So the earning, you start the ritual and then like through time, right? You earn the right and now you carry it with you. With order magic, capital O, order magic, when you're practicing that kind of stuff, if you realize those time markers come back up again after you've already made it to the destination, which how do you know when you make it to the destination? For me, it's very obvious. The spirits remind me of the tattoo that I did, and they're like, this is coming to, like, this is finishing, this is coming to a close. So you need to be aware of that. I have a really good, at least I think so, communication with the spirits who are around me and on my team. So I guess just really that is necessary too. For me, it's obvious. They're like, they put it right in front of my face and they're like, you need to look at this and you need to pay attention because if you don't, you're processing it anyway. So don't be ignorant. Okay. Ain't that the truth? Okay. And also, once you earn the right, so you pass through all of it, you earn the right of the tattoo that you're doing. After that, if the order of the tattoo becomes active again, there might be another order of rites that you're processing, and or that order that is now folded into that tattoo that you've earned the right of with your magic through time. It could be that somehow in your world, you know how people put like signifier words on spells, right? If you pay attention to the order of that, it could be a signifier that that's coming back up after you've already earned the right of it. Someone might be interacting with that magic later on. So knowing the order and the details of those tattoos is really, really like imperative. It's really important. Hopefully this helps if you're someone who's interested in tattoo magic and or already a practitioner of it to advance your skill. Gratitude, reverence, and love to you. I love tattoo magic. Okay, it's so good. I've obviously been practicing for a time. And I just completed another one of my tattoo magics like less than a month ago. That was pretty crazy too. That sort of stuff is weird. Tattoo magic is very, very powerful. And part of the reason I do most of it for myself these days is so that I don't have to have other people involved with that work in that work when it grounds in the future. So that's part of the reason that I, give myself the tattoos rather than going to a tattoo shop. Although I won't stop doing that, but it is something to note. Anyways, keep up the brew you need to do. I will too. I will talk to you soon. Also true.